Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings after a nice little hiatus of a week there. For me, it is a Sunday morning, April the 12th, 2015. Hope everyone's had an excellent week. I've had a very exhausting week myself. The reason I took a break from Cube Ramblings last week was because I had a lot of things on my mind. I was trying to get a lot of videos done for the week. I had to go on a business trip, which blissfully is over and done with. Just let's put it this way. I went to a very warm area. It was about 83 degrees, whereas right outside my house right now it's about 40 or so. This is Fahrenheit for those of you not so blessed with that measurement system. And I had to spend all my time indoors in meetings, so did not get to enjoy the nice warm temperatures that I would have liked to have enjoyed. But I had considered on many occasions just skipping out of the meeting and just going golfing or something. But it was not to be had. It was not to be had. So I'm on a bit of a recovery right now, trying to get back into the swing of things. It does, even though I was only gone for about two and a half days, it still does throw me off entirely, because I am, just exhausted, number one, and number two, I just, I have to get things back together again, and I still have, my suitcase duffel bag that I took just kind of lying around and I keep tripping over it and just haven't yet thrown everything away or putting everything back together again and all that stuff. So it just takes me a while to get back into the groove of things. I'll tell you what though, it is awesome to be back home. As much as I'm not a big fan of traveling. Once I'm at a place, it's not too bad, but I always like coming back home again. But anywho, so this is not going to be an entire hour of me just rambling on about how much I hate traveling, because that's not going to make for a fun video. This, in fact, is going to be me rambling on about video games and other things that have been going on. I am going to try something a little bit different. A little bit later on. It's going to be the same format as everything else, but I do want to sort of follow up on some of the games that I have kickstarted a while ago, and just have some thoughts on what I've kickstarted and what I've done. It's been a long time since I've actually talked about anything on Kickstarter, mostly because I wanted to get out of the pattern of just every week having an update like, oh yeah, all these things I kickstarted, they're at this amount now, and there's this many days left, and you should really get in there and do something about it. I wanted to get out of the habit of doing that and more just looking at, making note of them, and then eventually having videos and stuff once they have something visible and playable. That's a lot of fun. But I do want to, since it's been a long time since I've done that before, I do want to go back over the list and just kind of have some thoughts about some of the things that are on there. So I've got that sort of tab open, so if you hear me clicking around, I'll be looking at that. Also, couple things, in case you're wondering, it's been a slow, the last 2 weeks have been kind of slow with news. We've had some big news, but a lot of the stuff coming down is just crap that I don't even really care about, like amiibos and God knows what else. It's just lots of talk about things other than games on gaming sites. Go figure. But people are losing their crap over Deadpool and stuff, which I don't have any problem with comic book characters and stuff. I just when I go to a gaming site, I kind of want gaming news. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Couldn't really care so much about the Deadpools and the various other things. There are other sites out there that are better suited to that kind of thing. My opinion only. And obviously, I'm the only one with that opinion because they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't getting clicks. So that long-winded spiel was me saying not a whole lot of new things to talk about, which is why I'm talking about some of these other things come along here. But I do have two things that I've sort of keyed off of here. Well, three really. The first one, and I would be a very, very bad YouTuber if I didn't talk about this. Deus Ex Mankind Divided. We got the spoiler trailer for that. Spoiler trailer. Preview trailer for that game came out right when I got home from my business trip. That was a very nice thing to come home to see a Deus Ex trailer just sitting there waiting for me. So that was really cool. I watched it. I may have watched it twice, but I've been looking around at all the news sites for more information than what a trailer normally gives you, and there is some more information. I'll link you guys to Destructoid, since they seem to have the most information of any other ones that I saw on there about the new game and what the new game entails. The link I'm giving you is not to the actual trailer. You probably won't have any trouble finding that, but it is to an article talking about the trailer, actually talking about the leak of the information about the game, but it actually has more information about the game in that leak than, we actually got from anything else. So, hence the link. But from what I gathered, looking at the trailer, and from what I've read in that leak, it's the game is obviously continuing the story of Adam Jensen, who and spoilers to anyone who hasn't played the game, dies in most of the outcomes of the Deus Ex Human Revolution video game. But they're bringing it back for a sequel to it. This one is going to sort of focus on the almost civil war that breaks out due to the fact that augmentations and people who are augmented and people who aren't augmented, and the various things that go on along the path of the Deus Ex Human Revolution, and various things of that nature. Which means that basically they're going to pick one of these, they as in Square Enix, is going to, or Eidos Montreal I should say, really. Square Enix is just the publisher. Eidos is the one actually doing the work. They are going to probably pick one of the endings and then go with that and make that the canonical ending. Now, the leak said that they weren't going to pick any of the endings. There was 4 endings to Deus Ex Human Revolution that you could pick, depending on your choices along the game. I only had access to 3, but there is a 4th one that you could unlock by, doing something. The way you interact with people, you could have done it. And this is, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I feel like they should have done what they do, and maybe they will do this. I mean, this is just a leak and it's unconfirmed, but what they did between Deus Ex and Deus Ex 2, Invisible War, the one that a lot of people want to forget, is they did select one of the endings and made it canonical. So there were 3 endings to the original Deus Ex. And what they did was they picked one. So they picked the one where, what's his face? Was it Jensen? Not Jensen. I forget the protagonist's name now. I'm so bad. I love these games and I don't remember. The names do not come back to me. But anywho, the protagonist, one of the endings is he merges with the Helios core and becomes like a, supreme being, godlike religion, augmented person, and causes changes throughout the world in so doing. They chose that as the actual canonical ending. There were several you could do. One of them, the one that I chose, was actually blowing up the Helios core altogether and just raining in the, basically destroying the internet at the same time. So sort of kind of plunging you back into some sort of dystopian lack of information area. But they chose that one, and then they based Deus Ex 2 Invisible War off of that. And that was fine. I feel like if you're going to do a sequel and you didn't plan on doing one, you should probably pick one of your endings and say, this is the ending. This is the one that we think that this is the one that is the next episode is based off of. That's not to say that you have to say that this is the canonical ending, although it'll be treated as such. They can always have another spin-off that is another sequel that takes one of the other endings and says, okay, no, here's what the other ending would have gotten you as far as a second or third game goes. That I'm okay with. I just feel like they should pick one that they already had in the game. They shouldn't come up with a different one. Now, that said, the thought, in the leak they're saying that they're wiping out all four of the endings and doing their own thing. But when I look at the trailer has a lot of scenes where you see Jensen floating face down in the water. At the end of the game, the choice that I made was to destroy the underwater base and everything with it and all the people that were on there, and just kind of wipe the slate clean, if you will. To me, it seems like that might have been the actual ending that they've chosen, because they show Jensen sort of floating in the water, and it would make sense, after you've blown something up, because at the end of that game, all you hear is the water rushing in. You don't hear Jensen die. You just assume that he does. But it could have been more that he was just sucked out or blown out, whatever the correct terminology is, and then floated to the surface and then was picked up. And if that's the case, then I feel like that's probably a very good way to start, because what you've basically done at that point is you've gotten rid of all the main scientists that were working on it, with the exception of his girlfriend, ex-wife, whatever she was to him at one point or time. She got away, so she's still the foremost scientist and all that stuff. But her boss was still on the base when I destroyed it and everything else. And we had the other guy that was sent out the virus that was causing everybody to just go insane, that had augmentations. He was, more than likely killed in that as well. So you are kind of wiping the slate clean for the most part. And then making a very interesting turn of events then, right? Because then it's okay, all these guys are done, and we know some conspiracy happened because people freaked out and then suddenly were better again. So clearly there's, people with augmentations are going to feel used. They're going to want to do their own thing. They're going to want to, be respected and everything else. And then the non-augmented humans are going to be afraid of them and go, nope, you guys, we're going to go all humans versus X-Men on you guys and just try to rein you all in and put you in jail just for the sake of doing it, or just isolating you from the rest of humanity. And then of course you've got the whole Civil War thing and mankind divided, and that seems to be what's going on, at least from the trailer perspective. So I'm on board with that. I just hope that they make it as though I just hope that they start off with, this is how the last game ended. This is where this game is going to start, based upon you selecting this other ending. They got to select something. It's not like they could potentially, I suppose they could make a game that looked at your previous save game and was like, okay, no, you chose this, so here's where you're going to go and here's what you're going to do. But as is typical for a Deus Ex game, the end game, the ending choices that you're given are pretty dramatically opposed to one another. So it would be like playing a whole different game at that point, and you would have to be essentially writing 4 different games in one. And I'd rather they just write one game, pick a this is the time branch that this game is taking place in, and then if they want to make another game that takes place in another time branch based upon another decision, all props to them, right? More Deus Ex is good Deus Ex. It makes memory happy. So as you can imagine, the moment I can pre-order this, it will be pre-ordered, let me tell you. Whether you like pre-orders or not, this is just, it's Human Revolution was a fantastic game. And I'm surprised that I'm shocked that I hadn't played it for so long before I actually sat down and actually did it, because I enjoyed every minute of it. Probably didn't make the best Let's Play of it, because as tends to be the case when I have like a long running story-based game, I get into the story, and when I get into the story, I tend to get quiet and not really be as, I don't know, dynamic or funny or whatever. I have my moments, but not quite as many moments as I had, say, with my Battlefield Hardline live stream, which I'm really actually pretty proud of. I think I had some good zingers in there, but that was mostly because I knew going into it was just going to be effing ridiculous, and I was like, well, I'm just going to be equally as ridiculous as I do it. Because you don't really play a Battlefield game for the single player, at least not anymore. You used to, but not anymore. So I kind of went into it with that knowledge. But when I go into a game like, say, Deus Ex or Dishonored or something like that, I know that the story in there is good, and I want to be immersed in it. And so I feel kind of bad if I'm like making lots of jokes, because I want to be immersed in the game. In order to make the jokes, I sort of have to pull myself away and go, oh no, this is going to be horrible for all these reasons. And then it doesn't ruin it for me, but it does sort of make me miss important bits of the story. And you'll see this a lot in some of the playthroughs I do, where I'll miss like an important note, and then later on in the story, something happens, and everybody watching it at home is like slapping their heads when I go, what? How did that happen? Where did that come from? That was out of left field. And then I go and watch my own video back. I'm like, no, actually, she said it. I was just too busy cracking funny about something else when it was said. So I need to strike some sort of balance in there where I can do both and appease both aisles there. As far as that goes. So that's all I got on Deus Ex Mankind Divided, unfortunately. I am waiting and watching with bated breath. There's not been, as far as I know, any talk of release dates or anything like that. I'd imagine it's probably too early yet for that. But that is certainly a thing. That is certainly a thing. Speaking of things that are certainly a thing, before I go on to some of the YouTube stuff that I have on here, I want to talk about some of the games I've been playing. So, Spatials. Fantastic game. Very, very cool. Love that game. I have moved to doing it per request, doing it twice a week. And I'm loving every bit of it. Still doing, I have to do a lot of stuff off camera to try to prepare for the episodes, usually, but it's still, I'm still really enjoying the game. There's still a lot to do in the game, a hell of a lot left to do. I'm going to try to be something of a completionist in this, in the Spatials, where I'm actually going back, and I've been doing this off camera mostly, but I'm going back to some of the early levels, like level 1, level 2, level 3 areas, and just doing all the WTF difficulty missions on there and getting all the plants up to the absolute maximum I can, so that at the very end I can say, yes, I have done everything I could possibly do in the game. So that's going to be interesting. I'm going to try to get through a lot of that off camera, and then just reveal it when it is done. But that's really cool. I'm enjoying the heck out of that game. Love it to bits. And it looks like a lot of other people have picked up on the game now that it's on Steam, and I'm seeing a lot of those videos, and they're having tons of fun too. So it's very gratifying to see something very small and something like the Spatials from a little indie dev just be a very cool, very fun thing that everybody's finding on their own to play. So very cool stuff there. We'll see what the future has in store for that. Also, speaking of indie stuff, Void Expanse is another game that I've been following. I did the early access on that game. It was actually not on Steam early access. It was on they had their own Humble widget that I had purchased it on, and then I got, as part of that, was that the Humble widget, or was that actually a Kickstarter? It might have been a Kickstarter, actually. We'll find out in a minute, or a couple minutes, when I actually go through my Kickstarter list here. But yeah, I supported Void Expanse early on. I really like the idea behind it. I like the, it's sci-fi. It's right up my alley. It's the kind of thing that I like. Wasn't sure how I was going to do the YouTube videos with it, and I'm kind of trying something. It's not really different, but it's something atypical, I guess. I'm going to try putting videos up, and starting with the video that will be going up after this video. I'm going to do minimal editing. I'm only going to edit out parts where there's literally nothing going on, or I have nothing to say and nothing to add. But other than that, I'm going to try to do minimal editing, and I'm just going to put them out as, however long they are. If they're 40 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever, I'm just going to put them out in that form and just roll with it. It'll be sort of like a live stream archive, only instead of the terrible audio quality that I get from my live streams, it'll be like a normal Let's Play, except very, very minimal editing. And I'm just going to do that once a week, because it's going to be like an hour or so each time. I'm going to do it just once a week, so as not to just completely inundate you with stuff that isn't edited in some sort of fashion. So that's a thing. I'm going to continue with that. Really enjoying that game. I like what I see there. It's very similar to, it reminds me a lot of Spaz, Space Pirates and Zombies, which was a game that I played the demo of, but then decided I didn't want to buy it because the zombies part. I know, I'm very shallow. I'm a very, very, very shallow person. But it really, I am just incredibly tired of the zombie stuff in games. That said, there's another game that I'm looking at that I actually might pick up called Pamela. That's a survival horror sci-fi game. Yeah, I might as well throw that in there. I'll link you to a Polygon article that I have on that. But that's the only one I've been looking at that I actually think I might be interested in. The rest that have like zombie stuff, like Deadlight and all that stuff, I just don't. I would want to play. Was it Deadlight? Is it Deadlight? Yeah, I think it's Deadlight or Dead Rise. Whatever it is, Deadlight. I think it was. I would like to play that game because it's got parkour stuff in it, and I liked Mirror's Edge. But if they removed all the freaking zombie bullshit from it, I would play it. But as long as that's in there, I can't. I just don't want to deal with it. I'm just so over that. I am so over it. And I'm just looking for other things besides that. I'm just tired. It's just so overused now. It's just so, it's like every horror game now. Oh, we got zombies. Like, well, that's, I'm sure there are other forms of horror that you could probably dig into, even if it's just psychological horror or something. I mean, granted, you've got the Dead Space stuff, which is not really technically zombies, but it might as well be. I mean, it's like we got this alien menace that we have to destroy, and it's like, well, yeah, I guess, pretty much zombies at that point. Alien Isolation looked pretty good, but it had a lot of the tropes in it that I don't particularly like. Like, hey, we've given you a character that can't survive getting hit a few times, or we're not going to give you any weapons. We're just going to send you off with a flashlight and a roll of duct tape. MacGyver your way out of this, or hey, you get to spend 20 minutes under this desk waiting for something to walk by. And it's just, I get it. I can see where the appeal is. I just would end up getting really frustrated with it, or completely making fun of it constantly. So that's a thing. The sci-fi game that I'm looking at, called Pamela, it's pretty much the same thing. It's like, hey, you're in this like antiseptic sci-fi futuristic base or whatever it is, city, and there's an AI that's supposedly going to help you, but at the same time the AI let everybody else sort of get infected with a plague that makes them zombies at nighttime, and you have to manage your resources, and you have to make sure that there's always light available so you can drive them away, and all that stuff, which, I mean, it's all the same tropes that you would get, but the mere fact that it's sci-fi has me like interested, unfortunately. so that's, I'm kind of keeping an eye on it just because I'm morbidly curious, and it's sci-fi, and I just need to know. I just need to know about it. I mean, I never played Dead Space, and I don't really have any intention of playing Dead Space, but I've watched YouTube videos of it, and I know the story of it for the most part. So I'm at least aware of it. If nothing else, I'll at least be aware of of this other game, even if I don't end up actually picking it up to play. But that was a whole tangent where I was just going to talk to you about something else that's coming out on the 14th, I believe, called Titan Souls. There is a free demo out right now on Steam that you can download for free and play. I have been playing the demo myself. I'm actually playing the demo that they had on, I believe, their itch.io page, which was the remake of their Ludum Dare entry that actually spawned the whole thing. And I've been playing that, and it started out for me the way that I figured a Souls game would. I've always kind of stayed away from the Souls games, like Demon Souls, Dark Souls, all that stuff, Bloodborne, because I get very frustrated very easily, and those games just are a constant like, hey, grind this out, grind that out, keep on grinding, keep on grinding, right? And keep on throwing your face at the wall that is that boss, because eventually you'll figure something out, hopefully. And I get bored of that. I get very frustrated by that. And when I first started playing the demo of Titan Souls, all my fears were realized. I was like, this is not, I can't deal with this. This is not, nah, can't do this. And then I put it aside for a day or two, and I came back to it. I was like, let me just try it again, because it's 2D, it's top down, it's got all the pixel art stuff. I was like, it's tugging at the old heartstrings. Let's just see if I can do something here. And I sat down the second session and I beat the cube boss that they had in the demo. And when I beat it, I got that like rush of exhilaration from that, and I was like, well, now I understand. Now I understand why people throw themselves constantly at these games, even though they are, cheating and ridiculous. The AI cheats, and it is ridiculous. And so I think on the 14th when this comes out, I've already purchased it, so it will be in my Steam library. But I think next Friday's live stream might be me throwing myself mercilessly at Titan Souls, and that might happen for a couple weeks, I imagine, until I just either get completely frustrated with it or I somehow give in and beat the game. But I feel like that will be a Twitch only thing that I do. So you'll probably have to go to my Twitch page to see the highlights and the VODs and all that stuff from it, just to appreciate that, because I don't think that will be something I would put on YouTube, because it is going to be a lot of me just repeatedly dying constantly, over and over and over again, I would imagine. So that seems to be something that's more suited to a live stream where, there's other things to pass the time while while I do that. So that's a thing. That's also something I'm looking at. That, again, I think is coming out on the 14th. You can also pre-order it now on Steam if you want. Depends on what you want to do. I would personally play the demo for free first and see if it's something you would actually enjoy before putting any money down on it. It's not expensive from what I remember. I think it was only like $15 if I'm not mistaken. But still, you'll want to play the demo before you do it, because those games are notoriously niche, because you really need to have the patience of a saint, honestly, to play them sometimes. So that brings us then to the two more things that we have here. One of these is old. It's from like 2 weeks ago. The other one is very recent, but they kind of tie in kind of to each other. There's at least a thin thread there. And that is that over in the UK, I'll link you to a Eurogamer article on this. But in the UK, Nantwich Education Partnership, a group of 14 primary and 2 secondary schools in Cheshire, wrote to parents last month after finding that some children were playing mature rated games that were beyond their age level. And these are younger kids, which, brings to light the whole, hey, you really should be monitoring what games your kids are playing, just like you should be monitoring what movies they're watching and things of that nature. And I don't think, honestly, I feel like games are still so young that a lot of parents just don't really understand them. And so they don't take the time to really understand that there's a rating system and what it means and all that stuff. Just like with movies, many years ago, there was a whole big thing about the rating systems and how people weren't really paying attention to them. And still to this day, I think there's still a good handful of people that don't really pay attention to them. But there are a lot that do now and are far more educated in that. And I think gaming will be the same thing in a few years. I think in a few years' time, there will be enough parents that have grown up with games and played games themselves, that it'll pretty much, the rating system will start to be more relevant at that point, I'd say. I mean, it's relevant, but it would be even more, I guess, the term I want to say is more adhered to. And there's plenty of your Walmarts of the world that make sure that they don't carry certain games that have been rated. They'll carry mature rated games, but they won't carry like adults only games, things of that nature. But I'm not really going to talk too much about that because I feel like that's sort of an open and shut thing. There was a follow-up article where, one of the teachers was like, hey, the controversy around it is that, should teachers the teachers were kind of threatening to turn in the parents to the authorities and tell the authorities that they're abusing their kids. A bit extreme, a bit extreme. But there was some explanations that came in, later on that sort of sheds a little bit more light on what they're actually getting at, that there's a lot of frustration, I think, from teachers, that they're largely ignored. And I'll be a little bit honest, I would, in the position of a parent, if I were in the position of a parent, I would largely ignore a lot of what the teachers say too, because having grown up in at least the educational system here in the United States, I can say that 80 to 90% of teachers are full of shit. There's no way to sugarcoat that. I'm sorry. And that's just my personal opinion. Just based upon what I saw growing up, is that there was a lot of things taken out of context. There were a lot of instances around me where teachers were making some really bad decisions, that I personally witnessed or that I was the target of. So I should go on the record and say that I'm a bit jaded. I had some good teachers, some very good teachers, but I had a lot of just deadwood too. And it was the deadwood that kind of sticks with you. It's the deadwood that sort of makes you cynical and not really trusting of a lot of things that teachers have to say for themselves, because they're coming from a position of not really understanding your child, even though they believe that they do. And it's also very easy as a parent to get upset when people are telling you how to raise your own kids. I mean, let's face it. The teachers are in an unenviable position, right? Where they're basically trying to tell parents how to raise their kids, that they're not raising their kids well. And nobody's really going to take well to that. I don't care how lackadaisical you are. Nobody wants to be told that they're raising kids wrong. So I can kind of see where the sort of tough talk, if you will, is coming from. And I don't really want to necessarily discuss that stuff, because to me it feels like an empty threat, number one, and number two, it feels like an inappropriate threat. Right? Because it's like, not only is a teacher not going to be able to follow through with what they're saying, but if they did, they would get so much backlash that it wouldn't have been worth it in the first place. And two, you really are sort of treading on thin ice that's really not your business. So I don't really think, I think that was a largely empty threat that was thrown out there. It was more of a, we got to have a talk about this kind of thing. It's like, it's like throwing oil onto a fire just to get people to talk about how warm it is in the room. is essentially what I took away from it. It's kind of a crappy way of driving that discussion, but I could see the frustration was probably mounting, and they decided to just go, balls out on it and say something inflammatory to spur a reaction, so that the talking could happen. Not agreeing or disagreeing with that, I am completely ambivalent with the merits of that. But there was something that did come up in the course of that article, and it's a small little sort of throwaway line, but it's one that I thought is one that stuck with me. And that is that one of the things they cited is that kids are not only gaining access to play games that are beyond their age rating, but that they're also going out and seeking out Let's Plays. And I think the example they cited was Five Nights at Freddy's, which is, I mean, you can't throw a stone half a meter without without falling onto a video of one of those games on YouTube or other, or even Twitch or otherwise. But that they were, they had kids that were having lots of nightmares. They were coming into school very tired because they couldn't get any sleep because they were having nightmares constantly about, Five Nights at Freddy's, which is a game that they don't own themselves. They were just watching a Let's Play of it, and it completely freaked them out, and they were having constant nightmares about it. And I think that struck home for me, not only because I'm part of that problem. I haven't done any Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't do horror games, but I do put mature rated games up there without any kind of warning. Dishonored is a mature rated game, and I'm doing a playthrough of it, and there's going to be mature themes in there. There's going to be blood. There's going to be gore. There's certain things I'm going to have to censor out. I believe I've done a little bit of research, and I believe that there's going to be some nudity in it at some point. So that's why I didn't do it as a live stream, because I know I'm probably going to have to do some censoring along the way. Because blood and guts are cool, but boobs not. So knowing that, I kind of felt really bad, because I'm like, hey, I'm putting these videos up here, but I'm not age gating them or anything like that. Like, any kid can stumble on there and watch Dishonored, right? I'm no worse off than anybody else, but I'm no better off either, right? I feel like, should I put a disclaimer ahead of time, like, warning, this is a mature rated game, and viewer discretion is advised? Should I do that? Should I take that upon myself, or should I continue to do what I'm doing and just not worry about it? Should I put it in the description? Does anybody even read the description? I don't even know. It's just, all these things started popping in my head. Like, am I part of this problem? Because I know as a kid, I didn't have, the internet was not a thing that I had in my house until high school. I actually went and got a summer job and paid for my first computer. And that's the first time I got that in my freshman year of high school. And that's the first time the internet was ever anywhere in my house. But I grew up with a lot of the Friday the 13th and all these horror movies that I used to watch as a kid. Mostly because I've never been a big fan of horror movies, but I knew that if I watched them, there would be some kind of nudity in them. So I was Mr. Skin before Mr. Skin, basically. I was watching these movies not because I really cared for the story or anything, but because I knew at some point in time there would be some campers, a man and a woman having a go at it in some room, and then the killer would come in and murder them. But in the interim between the blood and guts and the there were to be some sort of actual nice nudity in there. So that's how I got my kicks. That's how I got my kicks as a kid, because I had nothing else. I didn't have access to magazines or anything like that. It was just horror films. There we go. But because of that, because I used to watch like the horror films and stuff, I remember as a kid, I had a lot of problems with nightmares. Like every single night, without fail. And even video games did it for me. Even back then, like, I know this sounds wimpy, but I had an NES when I was 6 years old. Was the first time we got the NES in our house, which would have been 1986, which is, I think, the first year they actually came to North America. And my brother was using it the same as me, and he went, and he was much older, and he bought what was it, Dragon Warrior? He bought a bunch of other games too. We rented a lot of stuff from Blockbuster back in the day when Blockbuster was a thing. But he bought Dragon Warrior, and of course, since he bought it, I played some of it too. And that game actually, there were some parts of it that scared me, like going up against a dragon and stuff like that. Believe it or not, even like Spy Hunter, the game itself wasn't scary to me, but the music was kind of haunting, which is weird to say, because if you ever heard the music from Spy Hunter, you would not associate haunting with it. But for like a 7 or 8 year old kid, for some reason or another, when I would go to bed and I'd hear my brother down there playing the game, I'd hear it clear as day because I was right above that area. That song, for some reason, that constant song playing, it just I don't know, it triggered something in my brain, and caused me to just have constant nightmares all the time. Same with Dragon Warrior and various other things that we picked up. There were other games that we rented for a few days that just gave me problems. In addition to other media like movies and stuff. And so, like, every single day, every single night, it was torture. I was just constantly nightmares until I learned how to deal with it, which I thought it was kind of a weird way. Basically, I started to deal with it by going to bed. As soon as I would go to bed, I would think about and concentrate on the fact that I was going to sleep, right? Which is, you'll just have to follow me on this one. I would make sure that was like the last waking memory I had was that of actually going to sleep. And then as a nightmare would form, I would remember that I was asleep, and then be able to sort of do a little bit of lucid dreaming, which I didn't know was a thing. I didn't find out until much later in life that lucid dreaming was actually a thing. I thought it was just something I figured out on my own, but apparently it was such a thing that people actually know about. But basically, it's you kind of wake up, but don't. So in other words, your brain wakes up while you're asleep, but your body is still asleep. Which is very, very, very strange sensation, because you're basically paralyzed. Can be kind of scary at first, but you're basically paralyzed, but aware that that your body's asleep, but you're kind of not. And the idea is that by doing that, I could remember that I was asleep, and that would knock me into that state where I was awake but not awake, and then that would allow me to then sort of clear my mind a little bit and refocus the dream. So a nightmare suddenly became something else entirely. I would just kind of push the nightmares away, if you would, and then manage to and then let myself fall back asleep again, and then manage to get through the whole night, which was a lifesaver, let me tell you, because it was rough trying to, especially as a kid, trying to figure out like how to actually get to sleep when your brain won't let you go to sleep, because of all this stuff going on, all the nightmares and everything. And it eventually got to a point where I got so good at it that, I'd go many, many years without actually having a nightmare. And in fact, the funny story there, just a few nights ago, I think it was the first time I've had the first beginnings of a nightmare forming in my brain while I was asleep in probably 10 years or so. And what's funny about that is I felt it coming on and was able to change it before it ever manifested into anything, which was very strange feeling, because it's like suddenly that weird part of your brain just kicks in after all those years of not being used, and it's just like, nope, you're a nightmare. You're out. You're out. I have ejected you from the brain case. And I felt it actually happen. I felt myself wake up a little bit without actually, waking up, and then fall back asleep again, and my nightmare changed into something else entirely. I can't tell you what, because I can't remember what it turned into. I remembered a nightmare, but I don't remember what it actually turned into. So it was just bing, bam, done. And I was able to get a full night's sleep out of it. So presumably that was all due to like the traveling and being in planes and all that stuff. I imagine that stirred something up after many, many years. But, it was still, it was weird feeling that kick back in again. So, all that long-winded tangent there was basically to say, like, I kind of understand where they're going from. I think the hardest thing to understand is how somebody, watching a YouTube video, like a kid watching a YouTube video would somehow have nightmares from it. But having been that kid, even though I didn't have YouTube back at the time, I can sort of understand it. So I feel like, if there's anything to be pulled out of that article, it's that there might be something to that. Obviously, nobody wants parents to let kids play mature rated games that are beyond them, right? Nobody wants to be in a position where they can't allow their kid to do it either, because, if you feel like your kid can handle it, then why not? But at the same time, I feel like from the YouTube side of things that I am not doing anything good as far as helping out with that, because I'm not, I haven't been putting warnings and stuff on the YouTube videos and stuff like that. I've been kind of operating under the assumption that my gameplay style, my commentary style, would be more attractive to adults than it would be to kids anyway. So I've kind of been running the channel as though my audience would largely be adults, or, teenagers at least. So I had never really considered some of the points that they had brought up there, which is, there's some very valid points. I never, the fact that I never considered them is kind of odd to me, because they make perfect sense, right? It's just not something that ever occurred to me, never went into my brain and stayed there. And I've seen other YouTube channels where they're like, no, there's some kind of content warning before their video if they're going to do some kind of mature rated video. I just never thought it was necessary, because a lot of YouTubers don't do it. But it's something that I'm seriously considering now. I'm really putting thought to it. I want to do it in a thought. If I do it at all, I'd want to do it in a thoughtful way, that doesn't like detract from, people who are watching it in watching a whole stream of them, like, watching a playlist or something like that. But at the same time, get the same message across. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up because it kind of got me thinking about that whole space, like, and I don't usually do any horror games either. So really the only problem that I could cause is with the blood and the gore. Although there are some of the things that you wouldn't think that people would be afraid of, or I should say that kids would be afraid of, they end up being afraid of. Like, there was the big thing when I was a kid was The Labyrinth, the movie The Labyrinth. There were some parts of that I was very legitimately scared of. I know it's kind of hokey to say because it's all just puppets and stuff like that, but there were some parts that I was like, ooh, I like the when she falls down into that hole with just hands all over her and stuff, like that was like freaking frightening to me as a kid. As an adult, I just laugh hysterically at the terrible production values, but as a kid, you're not thinking of that. You're seeing what's on the screen, and that said, even as an adult, like I've been told that the Crystal Shard is the other movie, the sort of sequel to the Labyrinth or something like that. Crystal Shard, is it? I don't something like that. I've been told that's a fantastic movie and that I should see it if I liked the Labyrinth, which I actually did like it at the end of the day. That I should see that, and I have tried on numerous occasions as an adult to watch that movie, and I can't. It's too dark for me. I don't know why. It just triggers something where I'm like, I just can't watch this. This is not. There are puppets here that are doing things that are not really very cool. I just can't do it. So there you go. Sometimes it's the weirdest things in the world that just trigger people, and you're like, oh, I don't know why I don't like this, but I don't like it. So all that sort of got me, again, this is just me rambling, but that was just, all these things got me thinking about the way I conduct myself on YouTube and everything, and whether or not I should change a little bit the way I do things. I'm not gonna change my commentary, because I think at the end of the day, yes, I do curse. Yes, I do say things that are kind of adult. Okay, I say things that are really adult sometimes. And I don't have any illusions that I could change into something else. Let's put it that way. It's not to say there's anything wrong with people who self-censor themselves or try to be more kid-friendly in their commentary. It's just that I don't think I can do it. I'll be perfectly honest. Because I get into something, I want to really say... there are things that I won't say. There's things that I try to avoid. But there are... a lot of times I'm in the moment and I want to say something that's I think will be funny or poignant or whatever, and just say it and not have the fear of, did my audience not get that? did I just make this way too adult for people? I just don't want to get into that. Because I don't see myself being able to accomplish that kind of transition. I feel like I would be in my own mind, I feel like I would be too fake at that point. I am an adult. I am a dirty old man with dirty old thoughts and a sailor's mouth at times, and that is what's going to come through on my videos, for better or for worse. Let's put it that way. So that's a thing. That's kind of my thoughts around that, around the piece that I pulled out of that larger article. You really probably should look at the larger article because it does go into pretty good depth about what's going on. But I sort of latched onto that one piece and I sort of pulled that off and like, ooh, this is making me think about things, which I think it was the whole point in the first place, was making you think about things. Speaking of thinking about things, YouTube is thinking about making some changes, and they're probably going to implement these changes to where they're going to change to a subscription-based service. But there's precious little details about exactly how they're going to do this. I'm going to read to you. So basically the idea is, from what I've read in articles, they're going to open up a subscription service that's site-wide. That's something along the lines of $10 a month. And users who pay that monthly subscription fee will get no ads at all on the site, which sounds good. It's pretty much what Twitch does, except Twitch does it on a per streamer basis, and this YouTube is doing it on a full site basis, which kind of makes a little bit more sense because a lot of people follow multiple people, so it would make sense that you could do it from that perspective. The thing that's not sort of making sense is how exactly they're going to do their revenue share. They haven't released any details yet on that, but it sounds like the initial thought is that all the YouTubers based upon that you watch, if you're paying that subscription, based upon how much you watched of each of them, of their content, they will get a proportion of the subscription fee that came in. 55%. Okay, so YouTube will take the normal 45 that it takes. Of the 55% left over, each YouTuber that you watched will get a small percentage of it based upon how much of them you watched. So if you watch one YouTuber more than another, they would get a bigger slice of that pie in theory. In practice, I think it's probably going to be a complete wash, and it's going to be exactly what we got today. That's the cynical part of me talking, but I would imagine that's what they're going to do, because if they change it in a way that it would cause smaller people like me to get a bigger piece of the pie than the larger YouTubers are going to get really upset, and they've got more pull than a small guy like me has. And then YouTube's going to end up changing it back around in their favor. So I'm guessing that YouTube is going to be, stroking their egos and keeping them on the higher end of that proportion, and us little guys on the lower end, just to maintain that status quo, which is fine. The part I'm not quite on board with is it sounds like all YouTube partners have to accept it, and otherwise you have to make your videos private. And I'm not sure how that's going to work out, because I don't monetize any of my videos. So I don't know if suddenly my videos are going to be monetized now, or else they'll go private, which wouldn't be very good. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how any of it's going to work yet. Let me read to you. Let's see how much time I have. Yeah, let me read to you the email that I got. We're not going to get to the Kickstarter stuff today, unfortunately. It's looking like I spent more time on my topics than I want to. But let's read the YouTube email that I got. And this is all the information I have so far. So it says, "Dear YouTube partner, your fans want choices. Not only do they want to watch what they want, whenever they want, anywhere, and on any device they choose, they want YouTube features built specifically with their needs in mind. Over the past several months, we have taken bold new steps to bring these experiences to life. Since inviting hundreds of thousands of fans into our YouTube Music Key beta, we've seen tremendous engagement, and we've seen an equally enthusiastic response for our new YouTube Kids app, designed to give families a simpler and safer video viewing experience. It's already crossed 2 million installations in less than a month." Yeah, I wonder if I am on the YouTube Kids app, because that would be kind of weird based on what I just was talking about. But anyway, "We're excited to build on this momentum by taking another big step in favor of choice, offering fans an ads-free version of YouTube for a monthly fee. By creating a new paid offering, we'll generate a new source of revenue that will supplement your fast-growing advertising revenue." So what's next? "Launching a new paid offering will require us to update your terms through your Creator Studio dashboard, a process that should feel familiar to anyone who went through a similar process 3 years ago when we began distributing and monetizing your content on mobile devices. Today, mobile represents over half of all watch time, and mobile revenue is up 200% in the last year. Just as with mobile, we're confident the latest contract update will excite your fans and generate a previously untapped additional source of revenue for you. Please look out for our notification, review it, and let us know your thoughts. It is an exciting year for YouTube as we push ourselves into uncharted territories, but we continue to be guided by the desire to deliver the choices the fans want and the revenue you need. By working closely with you, we know it will be a successful journey, YouTube team. So that's all I've got. The rest of the information I have is based upon what I've read on articles. It says, in that email, it kind of said like, this is an additional revenue stream as, in addition to what you already have, which leads me to believe that you can, even though you might have to accept it, which makes sense. You would probably have to accept people with the subscription on there. You don't necessarily, for people who don't have a subscription, nothing really changes. They'll still see ads, and you'll still get the ads the way it's supposed to be. Again, what I'm worried about is for someone like me who I literally only clicked on, yes, I want to be a YouTube partner for the scheduling. That's the only reason why I'm a YouTube partner, is I just wanted to do the video scheduling, the upload scheduling. Without that scheduling has been a lifesaver. Without that scheduling, there would not be as consistent videos on my channel as there is right now. The videos would not be as consistent as they are, because, being out of town and all that stuff, it just automatically goes up and I don't have to worry about it. Right. So what does this mean again for my channel? I don't know. I don't really have any intention of monetizing anything. And here's the weird thing. With the subscription thing, I can see people coming into my channel still, seeing the videos, and then I would technically get a portion of whatever ad revenue, or I'm sorry, whatever subscription revenue was there. But I have not created an AdWords account, and I'd imagine they're still linking these things through AdWords accounts. So technically speaking, even though I could turn monetization on right now on a video, but I wouldn't see any money from it because it would just go into an account that doesn't exist. So literally YouTube would just be collecting the money on that, because they wouldn't be able to pay it out to me because I don't have an AdWords account to be paid into. So even in this new realm, if the subscriptions start coming down and I'm forced to monetize things, I don't know if they're going to force monetization on. I don't know how that's going to work. But even if they force monetization on, I'm not going to see any money from it. It does mean that if they force it on for public videos, then you guys will start to see ads on my stuff, even though I won't get paid for it. But if you don't have subscriptions, which I assume a large portion probably won't, you'll probably start seeing ads on things in order for me to keep the videos public. I don't know how it's going to work yet. I don't know anything yet, but this is my supposition based upon what I can figure out in my own brain, based upon what I've seen and what I've heard, and being a web sort of programmer myself. I can kind of see in the code in my head as to how they would have to write this to make it work. And it's looking like the loophole that I'm in, which is, hey, I'm a partner, but I don't have to monetize anything. They might have just closed that loophole. And it might be now that all of my videos have to be automatically monetized in order to be public. I don't know. The thing I don't want to lose is the ability to schedule things. So technically speaking, I could quit being a partner, but then I will lose the scheduling stuff. And that's the thing that's just, I need that. Let's just be honest about it. I need that function. So if it means that there will now be ads on my videos just so I can have that function, it's going to have to be something that's going to have to be, I would say. It's going to suck because it's going to look like to everybody that I am monetizing things, even though the reality situation is I'm still have no intention of making an AdWords account, so I won't actually see any money from anything. And to be fair, I don't get enough views for that money to be anything significant anyway. We're talking fractions of a cent at this point. But yeah, I'm in a wait and see pattern to see how this actually flushes out, to see what the actual details are. But I wanted to make you guys aware of it because it could be a big change from what's been going on. But I think that will do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And I will see you next Sunday.